Hey there, everybody. It's been a pretty busy Thursday, and we're still working on some things, so this is probably going to be another pretty quick update. Um, but I wanted to touch base on a few things and set a tone and kind of a project list going and see where it takes us. We actually just got back from town, and one of the things that we were doing was stopping by the library because they called to tell me that a book came in. So this is the next book I'm reading. You may think that a construction and urban suburban development book about construction is not really a permaculture book, but this goes into a lot of the same kinds of language and observation, iteration, pattern techniques that I talk a lot about on this channel, and so this is kind of where it came from. I'm going to pause here and let you guys take a screenshot or write some things down. Okay, cool. I haven't read any of it yet, so maybe we'll do a little book club. I read fast though. The collection of potted plants has kind of slowed in its growth, and part of that is because we are still waiting on projects like these guys, and this is about 50 of a willow. This is the tricolor willow Hakuro Nishiki, and so you can see that on some of these guys the new leaf buds are starting, which means that they are pushing roots into that medium, and if I were to look, we're probably just a little bit away from those drainage holes getting some willow sticking out of it. I do have them on a little actual old tree root that is still in the process of breaking down to keep them from being able to root directly into the ground, but we have a few buckets like this underneath the catchment. It gives them a nice shady spot so that they don't dehydrate too quickly, and they get a little additional wetness from the general wet vegetation on this east and north side of the house. I'm in the process also of going through the pots and taking some of the small weeds out. And in this context, I'm going to call them weeds because they are plants that I do not want growing in this pot with this Japanese maple. The reason I don't want them growing with this Japanese maple is that the state of Maine requires, when selling plants, that you do the utmost to only be selling high quality plants free of pests or diseases and other plants that are unintentional. And so we're going through most of these, because they are so new and were mulched so quickly, have not had a whole lot of time for weeds to sprout, but you can see that nature never stops working. And so as we select plants for market, we're going to be picking the best looking ones that are in full display and look nice. You can see just how much of a variation there is, but for plants that were hurting last week, you can see the difference in how they've perked back up. We'll come through and trim some of the mints to promote a more bushy, more full looking set of growth. But yeah, we're just going to be selecting the most mature and the nicest looking ones to bring to market with us, and just kind of crossing our fingers and hoping that they sell. And if we sell out, we'll just be talking a hard game about all the cool stuff that we're going to have this fall, and that's the plan. In talking to the folks down at the farmers market, it seems that there aren't going to be very many agricultural vendors, so I may have the pleasant distinction of being the sole plant nursery present at our farmers market this year. I was thinking that I'd be the only one who did in-ground growing and cultivation of potted plants, decorative landscaping plants, and edible perennials, but I might just be the only one there, which is pretty neat. Fingers crossed. We made a capital investment in some Green lumber. I know, I know, I know, I know. That's brown. But it's still wet. It hasn't been dried, it hasn't gone through a curing process, and it hasn't been treated in any way, shape, or form. If you were to watch me drive a nail in this, you'd probably see some moisture come out, and that's totally okay. We have a ton of beeswax, and I'm going to be coating the inside. These are going to be new air prune boxes. I have yet to decide how many of these are going to get bottoms and how many of them are going to remain as just a stackable frame, so that if I have any super deeply tap-rooting trees, I have the option of doing two of these. This is a 2-inch by 8-inch. I got 8-foot boards, and so this is a 2-foot by 1-foot. I am sticking with the dimensions of our initial round of air prune boxes, but I did go up on the thickness of the wood. I feel like I'm going to have fewer issues than what I am seeing as the roots and the soil create pressure, and I think that that's shown really well right here, where you can see that these are about half the thickness, and you can see that there is weakness in the strength of the screws going into such a thin material. We've also upgraded the type of mesh, so we are going with one that is half of the size of that opening. So instead of a 1-inch mesh, we're going to have a 1/2-inch mesh, and I'm positive that that's going to have a huge improvement as far as losing soil to gravity and seepage, as well as how this holds up. So I'm looking forward to these, and I'll show you those in just a moment. We've got about 5 more to build, and so yeah, here we go. Okay, so I took a break from my conveyor belt assembly line style of just building boxes to set this up, just so I could show you guys what it is that we're up to. So 1/2-inch welded wire, hardware cloth, and I'll make sure to put all of that in text on the screen so that if you guys are doing this, this is something that you can replicate. So 1/2-inch hardware cloth on 2-inch wide, 2-inch by 8-inch, and what I am using to fasten this hardware cloth down are 3/4-inch poultry net staples. These are not the only piece that is going to be holding this mesh to the bottom of this. This is just so that when I go to attach the wooden runners that are going to go the lengthwise of these, because that's where the edge is, and these sharp bits are unpleasant for human flesh. So if you're doing this, be careful. But so I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut along this line. I have a pair of snips right here. Don't use your scissors. You'll ruin your scissors. Use a pair of these. Some pliers have like this little V groove in the very deepest recesses of the plier nose, and so you may have a thing like this. So all I'm going to do is unlock it, and what I'm going to come in and do is just and I'm just going to cut along that line down the way. And the reason I do it like this while it's still attached to the rest of the roll is that the roll provides weight, and it'll pull this back when I'm done cutting, but I can use the last piece of board. I'll end up using a box when I get to the last of these, but I use the board as weight and then just staple in one edge and then follow it up, finish around, and then I'll cut this, and this will be ready to fill with a little bit of wood chip at the base, and then some of that bagged soil that we have for all of our seeds. And once I have all of these completed and ready to seed out, I will make a video so that you guys can all see what it is that we are putting in here. But yeah, that's my project for the rest of the night. I have to tell you all, I got a yes from the folks at the farmer's market today, which means I'm full of anxiety because now there's actually pressure for me to perform as a nurseryman over and above the judgment of the internet. So I hope you guys wish me luck. We'll be doing a whole lot more, and I'll probably show you guys some of the financials and paperwork that goes into launching if you are into that sort of thing. I'm probably going to make it anyway. But yeah, as always, thanks for watching. Happy planting.